Okay, so we are live, we're recording, and I've already called the meeting to order, right? So all of that's okay. So then I believe I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Andrea, thank you. Seconder, Morris, thank you. Any additions, changes to the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? Yeah. Approved, thank you. Any declarations of community interest, general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none. Then we have a series of reports to receive that are listed on your agenda. So it's the action plan update October, action plan draft for 2023, CEO service update for October, updated gap analysis report 2022, Q3 finance report, BNPL proposed 2023 budget. May I have a motion to receive those items? Jesse and Morris, seconding, thank you. All in favor? Go, that's carried. We have the minutes of the previous meeting on September 15th. Are there any changes, corrections to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as circulated? Okay, yeah, yes. Okay, thank you. I never looked that far. And I saw Andrea as well. So may I have a motion to approve minutes? I'm all in favor, that part of it. Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. Business arising from the minutes. I see, Sabrina, you've noted one item. Shall we start with that?
Just a quick update. I just wanted you to know that the funds have been moved out of the investment. They are now in the savings and we'll be bringing that to the board for the November meeting. But we did close out the GIC.
Okay. So there's nothing more at this point until next meeting. Okay, is there any other business arising for the minutes? Okay. Seeing none, can I have a motion that we receive the discussion? Jesse, thank you. Joanne, thank you. All in favor? Thank you, that's carried. Communications with the board, we have no deputations scheduled. We have nobody in the public here for public input, and I see there's no correspondence. And therefore, there's no motion for any of those things. So now we're into strategic plan updates and action items. And the first item is the action plan update for October. And so I'm wondering if there are any questions. So I'm seeing none. Sabrina, do you have any comments you want to make?
No, just that we're doing well. We're on target, bit over 76%. We're 3/4 of the way through the year, so where we should be.
Sounds good. Okay. So the next item then is the action plan draft 2023. Now the problem with this is we lose Joanne when we show stuff up. Is there a way of keeping her visible? Let's see.
We'll split screen here. There we go.
There she is. Okay. Great. Thank you. So as you can see, the action plan for 2023 is just the items that concern the board. Sabrina has other stuff that she was working on, and we said, you know, we only need this for our purposes today. The interesting thing I found about this is I compared it to 2022, and they're very But this current year had so many things that are unique to the last year of a board term, that there's very little that actually carried forward into next year. So it was much slimmer than I thought it would be. Can I ask you a question, Sabrina? I didn't understand the wording of the very first one. CH 1.1. Oh, you're showing the bigger one, I think.
Sorry,
No, that's
I
fine.
think I had to pull one up. We don't want that. Just the board items. That's the one.
Yes, yeah.
Much slimmer. There we go.
Yeah, so advocate and build key supporters within personal circles, which can recognize BNPL's facilities as hubs. Not quite sure what you're getting at.
So we can certainly adjust the wording. We're looking for board members to start building the key supporters, working in our own inner circles as we're moving forward, before we're starting to move more public. Start where you know, be comfortable in that first few months, first year of the board term, before we're asking for a board member to publicly speak or publicly advocate.
And the last half, which can recognize BNPL facilities as hubs, and that recognize needs to be the wrong word.
Maybe. Yeah, so we're trying to really bring home the idea that our facilities are hubs. If the East End project is going to move forward through the town, we want to make sure that it's understood that libraries are hubs and it isn't simply a building, that it is part of a larger purpose for the East End.
Was it perhaps to build recognition of BNPL facilities as hubs? So, the concept here?
And is that recognition within the library board members themselves or the key supporters?
Maybe it's community recognition.
Yeah, this will even the modified the thing you were saying, said to me, you're talking to board members only.
So it's the board members who will be doing this advocacy work.
Oh, I know what I recognize what they're doing, but don't board members with a little training recognize that we're looking at hubs?
Yeah, but
Wouldn't they know that they're working with hubs?
their job is to build that recognition among their key supporters.
Well, why don't we just say exactly that then? To build a recognition of community hubs within key supporters. Or worse.
Yeah. So build recognition of BNPL facilities as hubs. And among key supporters.
Yeah, that directs it towards key supporters.
Yeah, okay. Yes, thank you, Andrea.
Thank you to you, the chair, through you, the chair. Is the CH 2.1, is that to be collaborate or cooperate with
That's it. I
staff and council?
Appropriate, yes.
Figured it was something starting with the C.
It's cooperate, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Took me for the longest time to figure that out.
I know, it's like corporate, corporate what? I know.
Sometimes the fingers go faster than the brain can catch the spelling.
That was the only one I saw a need to adjust from my perspective. I did wonder, in terms of the communications, we didn't mention anything to the town hall in this, or did we try to capture it in a larger concept? I know for a couple of years, we made a point of holding town halls, and we struggled with it under COVID and did a couple of Zoom ones, which were difficult because people don't ask questions. But we want to mention, maybe semi-annual or something, town halls, just to open discussion with the community.
don't forget, all meetings are open to the public. And we give them the opportunity to come to the meetings, so.
Well, are there any topics that you think are coming up this year that we might want to offer a town hall for discussion? I guess we don't really know until,
That could be a last minute decision to,
yeah, yes, we can certainly do it. Yeah.
I mean, without, outside of the plan, you know, you can decide like that to do that.
Do it. Okay.
Or through the chair, does that, is that part of the bullet points that are in the greater part of this plan? Because these are just the items that specifically deal with the board.
The town halls typically aren't board doing
Yeah.
those. I mean, we would still be doing our information from a service orientation, but certainly if the board wants to have a town hall, it would be good to have them on this. And we will know, I would assume, early in 23, what the new council's direction will be pertaining to the East End Hub. So that may be something that we're needing to get information out. We have stepped back from the process because it's the town is taking the lead on this. This isn't us taking the lead on this piece. So we will be following suit on where staff and council are moving in this direction.
I'm just noticing, I know I'm flipping around a little bit here, but under OE 5.1, which is where we are, we seem to have the same thing for the first two items. Okay. And I'm wondering if we might actually want to have, I think in the past, we've said to having like quarterly updates or, I don't know, regular updates to council so that we're before the council on a regular basis, just so they know us and we keep them up to date. I'm not sure what wording we had in the past on that.
I do remember the discussion we had, that, sorry, Andrea, but, you know, the reaction was, yes, they read all the material. Do they read this stuff? I mean, our minutes are something, yes, through Andrea was, yes. I understand that. We have to do any more? Does the board have to do any more?
Well, that's a question for the.
No,
board.
but I'm not saying yes or no. Maybe I would say that the more often board members are in front of them, you know, the more action I guess.
More action. did you
Yeah,
say?
yeah, if we need action or,
Yeah,
you know. Am I speaking out of turn? Not out of turn, I don't mean, you know.
no, I'm not sure what you're saying, though. I mean, are you suggesting you like the idea of?
Oh, it's a fine idea, but,
Yeah.
you know, why do we have to do it?
I think
Other
it's-
than to names to faces, or faces to names, rather.
Well, keeping them informed, so they know what we're up to. Yeah, I think it's, I think it has a much better personal relationship with council if you show up and they know you're there and then, oh, hi, there's Lori or whoever, and
Yeah.
you were there to fill them in on what the library's up to. Andre.
Through the chair, I think there's an answer to yes in both cases. You know, we have to be respectful of the time, both the volunteer time and the paid time that it comes to, that is included in making a deputation. From the perspective of the Conservation Authority, when Tim Lampier comes to present to council, yep, the Conservation Authority provides all the information, it's all there and written. But we find particularly around budget time, it's helpful, and it's not because the Conservation Authority or the library is asking for additional funds, because we now have a similar structure where there's already the 6% already worked in. But to have somebody there to answer questions on how the board will be utilizing that money and what they're doing, I think that's key time to come to council and make that personal offer to be there to answer questions. And then after that, I would think project-based, you know, when we get into the discussion about the East End, you know, that's a perfect time to come forward and share what the library's plans are in terms of outreach and getting input, et cetera, so that we're not reinventing the wheels. We don't, we don't want the town hall side and the library side working on something that could be done together. We don't want it working separately. So I would answer that. I would say, rather than saying specifically every quarter or anything like that, I would do something around budget time, just as an information piece, to help with the cross education. And then again, when it comes up to the big corporate or collaborative, the big cooperative pieces that we're looking at.
Okay. We don't need to word things today, but we can capture that idea. Okay. So council info sessions. Okay. I noticed, Sabrina, you put in here, develop an advocacy plan, and I was wondering if you could talk a bit about what you were thinking when you wrote that.
Mhm. So the advocacy plan was part of the communication plan that we did from a corporate end. The advocacy piece was something that the board had very key pieces that they were going to be looking at. So what were really the overarching key messages that you wanted to get out to the public? We had those early on in 2018-19.
Okay.
Obviously, with 2020, we changed a lot of the pieces because the priorities changed in the community. So that's something that in 23, the board should be looking at what are going to be sort of those key messages that you want to put out over the next, if not 4 years, certainly in that first year. I would assume that much of this will have to do a lot with what's happening with the hub and aligning with council in that way. We may want to be looking at aspects about the strength of the MOU again, the strength of the funding agreement, those types of pieces that as council changes, even though the community members haven't changed, it's a new dialogue happens around those. So we want to make sure that we're bringing back those messages again.
Okay.
So this would be board specific on what the board would like to have as the talking points in your file.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions or comments or anything they think they might like to see added? And this is a draft, obviously, that will go to the new board to get an idea of the directions they can start, and then they will obviously discuss it and decide what they want to do. Okay, seeing none, let's move on. I see there's nothing specifically mentioned under community hubs, so nothing there. Okay, thank you. And then we're on to the CEO service update for October.
I'm not sure if there were any questions by the board. Stats again. It's going to be interesting as we start moving further away from those comparators of 21, which were lockdowns. Even looking at 19, it's such a different relationship at this point with hours and service models. But we're starting to level out at this point, I think, from getting back to the way the library was being used pre-pandemic, except for circulation. Circulation really did take a shift. And we're monitoring that to see what are some of the pieces that we need to be working with the community to find out maybe what those materials are that they're looking for differently. Programs obviously are in a different realm as we're now doing pretty much everything face-to-face. Some things are being done online, but very limited. But we are continuing to build that out with the new tech that we have here. It is going into the gallery we're looking to start doing more hybrid programs. So I do think that will be something that community members will be interested in, because there's so many who just don't want to be in the building yet. Masks on, masks off, just still uncomfortable with that process. So I think that will help with people and getting a little bit more comfortable and being able to access those types of social experiences that they weren't getting throughout the pandemic, but aren't ready to come back to yet. GoVax is here tomorrow, so I'll just put out one more push for that. We have the GoVax back again on November 8th, and I believe the town also has a GoVax that is happening on November 1st. So there are multiple opportunities in the community over the next 2.5 weeks for vaccination. We can't say what GoVax will have on them. They bring everything that they have, but the last time that they were here, the Moderna bivalent was approved at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and they were here at 8 a.m. with it. So I am assuming that we will have again the Moderna, the Pfizer bivalent has also been approved. So most likely they'll have that one. We do know they'll have the children's vaccine and then the regular first, second boosters as well, or first, second shots. So they should have shots, boosters, and children.
Great.
Outside of that, unless there are specific questions, we are seeing a downturn on the views of the board meeting. There's still, 29 views on Facebook and 7 on YouTube is more than what we were getting when people were coming in. So we're still moving forward with doing this, but as people have maybe more options with their day, we're not getting as many views.
We're not as riveting as we were, I guess.
Although we will see when weather turns and numbers start to go up again, if maybe we are the hot topic of things to watch on TV.
Okay.
Do you mind going back to section F, or if you, it doesn't matter. I see a word in there that I've never seen in my life before.
Is
Charrette.
it? Yes, me too.
And that's spoken as a school teacher.
Which is it?
Yeah, what is charrette?
Where are you?
Right in the middle, under the words
Oh, the charrette.
strategies.
Yeah.
What's a charrette?
That is a very good question. I'm trying to find it right now.
I didn't
Second
attempt to Google it.
paragraph, second line, towards the end,
Full day charrette.
helping us to guide Ontario museums into the digital future.
What?
So I thought it was a museum term.
It must be, that's it.
Charrette definition.
A meeting in which all stakeholders in a project attempt to resolve conflict and map solutions.
Oh, it's anglicized from French. So I'm gonna make that the word of the day at my next
There you go.
Toastmasters meeting.
Why don't you bring it up at a council meeting?
Okay. So are we done with that report? I think we are. Okay. Okie dokie. Well, my report, I can tell you that I spent some time this month working on the board recruitment deputation to council and doing it. I've attended all the weekly candidates meetings since they began on August 29th. And I tell you, that interfered a bit with my choir rehearsals, but I managed to get to most of them as well. And actually, as I said before, I attended and much for my own personal edification, of course, but I was also thinking about who was running and who, if they didn't get onto council, might be possibly candidates for the board for recruitment. So that was sort of my other thinking.
Yes.
Morris?
Not just spotted, that's all.
I think Morris thinks I'm pretty weird.
No, no.
Also, you saw the board evaluation got out, and Joanne and I are working with Sabrina on the CEO evaluation. And finally, all of you participated in the exit interviews, which we completed yesterday. So actually, October turned into quite a busy month. Are there any questions you want to ask me? No, seeing none, okay. The next item is the deputation on board recruitment. And you can add to this, Sabrina, but council seemed quite happy to say, go ahead. In fact, there's some comments where, well, why are you here? Can't you just do this? And which was kind of nice because they just see us as being, you know, autonomous, able to handle our own stuff, and you can go ahead. And we had to point out that technically it's that the town has to be involved because they're doing the appointment process. So yeah, so it's fine, it's smoothly. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I'll pick up the rest of them on the next piece, other than the appointment of the committee.
Hey, Andrea.
Thank you through the chair, perhaps just in case people are watching and they might be watching because they're interested in the next board slate, perhaps mention the information night that's coming up.
Yes, good idea. So we're having an information night on November 8th. I forget which day of the week that is. And it starts at 6 to 7:30, and it will be talking about everything you need to know if you are interested in becoming a board member. So it'll be held in the gallery. Are we in a position where we can actually, or we can record it and post it later, but can we record it so people can come in via Zoom?
We will hope that we'll be there.
Okay,
It is being installed as we speak.
okay, okay, so to be determined, yes.
How are you going to publicize that to the public at large?
That would be,
It's been,
I think partly it's us, by the way, and we have a discussion later on, in more detail about board recruitment. But I
Yeah.
think what I want to talk about is, people that we are talking to about coming on the board and then telling them about the information session. But there's also, it's on the website, I saw it on the door.
Yes.
mhm.
So inside the building, there is advertising. The municipality is putting out their ads that will go out. We have a new page that has been put up on the website that is library board. And when you're there, there are two pieces. So there's the history and the governance in case you want more information about what it is we do. But there's also the board information night and then the information page. So on the information night, we have the ad, the basic information, and then also if you choose to apply, it brings you right to the ad that is going out through the clerk. These are the clerk's words. So it mirrors that, and it also informs you of the deadline, which is November 23rd at 1 p.m., which goes to the clerk, not to us. And also it informs in red down at the bottom of the page that we are going to be doing interviews. We're hoping that they'll all fit on November 26th, which is a Saturday, but we are listing both because we don't know how many candidates there would be. If there is a tremendous run on applicants, we want to make sure that everybody has enough time to be able to participate in the interviews. So this will be going out. We'll also have social media. It'll be in our newsletter, and we'll have it as many places as we can get it. The other one that's there then is the information page, which is up, and this was based on what we had through our legacy documents to be able to build. So the working committee created all of the items that they were looking for. You can open up each of the accordions. There's more information. There's live links. So everything that you will need to know is there. And what we'll be doing on that day is actually walking through this page and asking questions and responding as well.
Great. We did have 2 volunteers to sit on the committee that will be doing the interviews. And so there's a motion about that. Joanne volunteered and Dorothy did, and Dorothy told us in advance because of course she's on the continent someplace. So can I have a mover and seconder to appoint Dorothy and Joanne to sit on the board recruitment committee as outgoing board members?
So moved.
Jesse, thank you. Andrea? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Great, thank you. So is there any other questions about the board recruitment process? Okay. Then we can move on to, you've got a recruitment website overview, that basically you've done that now, okay. Thank you. And then, so one of the items that had, that is going up onto that page is the updated gap analysis report. And we wanted to do this because we know that there's been some progress from the town in doing some of the changes that we needed for some of the building, but also it was to make sure we were up to date in what is a GLAM, what are the type of services we want to do, and in fact, what is the gap in our facilities when we to be able to do that. So this was, Sabrina, who drafted this. I don't know if you have anything you want to point out in particular, where you put the major changes.
Pretty much there were just bits throughout that we've updated. The chart used to only be 2019 stats. We updated it with sort of the comparative, and of course, as soon as we published it to the board in draft, the ministry released the next year's stats. So we're going to go back and crunch those numbers one more time, so that it's actually the the numbers reported for 21 in early 22. So we'll get a little bit closer, which is good because the 2020 that were reported in 21 were difficult because there were so many lockdowns at that point. It'll still be most definitely pandemic numbers, but it will at least be a bit closer in proximity.
Okay, good. I did wonder, I know on page 3 that we're still using the 2016 census information, and are we in a position where we could update that to 2021?
There's some pieces we use 21 and some pieces we use 16, just because the 21 was such a brief,
Oh, okay,
very little of the demographic was available.
okay, so you've done what you can, in other words, okay. Yeah. The only other thing I noticed was, we didn't quite use the same language as we have in the strat plan. I think we referred to objectives when in fact we're using words more like pillars and goals. So I just wanted to make sure we're harmonizing that
I will clean that up.
language for the new.
I will clean that up as we're doing the final stat crunch.
Okay, great.
Just a question, what happens to this report now? Does it's updated? Right? Does it-
It'll be accepted by the board, assuming you accept
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It will then go on to the orientation page for new board members,
Okay.
as well as the recruitment page, so that anybody who's interested knows where we've been with some of our facility conditions.
Well, doesn't council get upgraded, brought up to date as well?
There's nothing in here that council is not aware of. So I'm working regularly.
Oh, no, but shouldn't they have on file the most up-to-date copy, shouldn't they?
They have their own condition report, but I can certainly provide.
No, I don't know, no, what, as a counselor,
Yeah,
you have your own report. You have your own copy of that from someplace.
yeah, through the chair, we are updating the package of information that's going to go to new council members. We're adding some things
Yeah,
into
yeah.
it. And the clerk is in regular conversation with Sabrina to make sure that they can have as many firsthand documents as possible.
Well, that's the only reason, the only purpose of this document is to upgrade or to orient newcomers?
It was to let our incoming board know where we are with our facilities, so
Yeah.
that they're aware right from the beginning where our needs are, what
Yeah.
our problem areas are, and also how we use facilities. So if you're not using all of the services, you might not know the way various facilities are being used and where the shortcomings are.
But we don't expect any action because we publish our document.
Certainly that is sort of the document that I keep using with council to move things ahead. Windows are being changed because we're on these pieces. Roof has been done at the depot.
Yeah.
So all of
Yeah.
these are, this is for the board to know I have the working list that I'm constantly working off on this. The difference is we've updated it
Yes,
so that it wasn't a stagnant document. My work list is constantly moving. This was an opportunity to update it so that the board was aware.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
I also think it's a good document explaining what a 21st century service is. So it
Mhm.
provides context,
Mhm.
and that was really important for, I think, new board members
Mhm.
as they come on board. Any other, oh, there are, I spotted a few typos, but I'm not gonna tell them, take time now.
Like those over after.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions or discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'd like to get a motion to approve this document for release on the board recruitment webpage.
Absolutely.
Morris. Seconder. Tracy, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Lee, thank you very much. That's carried. Board exit interviews. There isn't much to say at this point. We have met with all of you and had some really interesting discussions. So thank you for participating in that, and thank you for suggesting it, because it was not something that had ever occurred to me. When we will actually be aggregating all the responses, and they will come to the November meeting, because we only had our last one yesterday, as like all three of you know. And there's no time to put it together for today. But that will come back to you. We've also added or plan to add in a policy document someplace that this will be done anytime there is an exit from a board member leaving. And I forget which policy we put it in. We didn't. So I guess we're bringing that to the November meeting as well, just to throw that in. So do we need a notice of motion regarding that? It's like one sentence. Do we need a notice of
We
motion?
can accept this as a notice of motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's for exit interviews. Board evaluation, you will see that went out for everybody to complete. I think with the deadline of November 7th, was that it? So if you could do that, that would be fabulous. First note comes in and gets aggregated, aggregated, and not aggravated.
Depending on the answers.
Right.
And comes to the November board meeting. The next item is the verbal report on the September board assembly meetings, and that would be you, Joanne.
Actually, that is going to be me, because they usually happen in November. And we did not realize that they had happened, so nobody attended. Yes, they happened early in September, unusual month for them. They're always in
Yeah.
April and November. So I did follow up with the Ontario Library Service, just so that we could have an update on what happened there, since we didn't have Joanne registered to attend. Their focus was very much what we've been working on, legacy documents, prepping for board, transition, and discussing recruitment. They had lengthy conversations about what councils were accepting and not accepting on board recruitment. And then the other piece was whether libraries were participating or not participating and hosting all candidate meetings. So all the things that we've been working on and have been doing were pieces that they were talking.
Is there anything in particular that we could learn from that discussion, or we were sort of already ahead of most of those things?
I think we were ahead of most of those. There are still many councils who do not feel it's appropriate for the board to participate in any way in recruitment. So that's something that I think our council is ahead of the curve by realizing that we have a role in both doing promotion for recruitment and also going so far as to offering a report on some feedback on candidates and where they fit within the priorities. So I think that the information that we have shared with OLS has percolated out, and I think we might see more communities start to do this in the future.
Okay. Good. Any questions for Sabrina on that topic? Okay, that's the end of our strat plan discussions. May I have a mover and seconder to receive those discussions, please? Thank you, Morris. Seconder, Joanne, thank you. All in favor? Thank you, carried. We're into other business, and the first one is the Q3 finance report. So Sabrina, maybe you can introduce it for us, and then we'll take questions.
Okay, so from our financial end, we have quite a number of grants. Again, the majority of them tend to be on a staffing end, working through Young Canada Works and other youth programs. Summer programs, as well as our interns, we've made a little over 40,000. It's not something that we can expand our labor with. These are new positions that we bring in. We do build them into our budget because we have to put in, on average, about 15%, sometimes as high as 30% of those. So we do build those into our budget each year. Additionally, we have a few grants that we were successful in receiving outside of wages in the amount of 54,000. The first one, which is the reopening fund for museums, the heritage organizations. We believe this is the last time they're going to be doing this. For 3 years, they have renamed the program, which used to be a COVID support program, to be 3 different names, really the exact same application and same funding to support museums during COVID because they knew that numbers were down. I'd be surprised if we see that next year. So it's wonderful while we have it, but not something to think maybe coming in the future. We actually didn't think it would happen this year. So it was nice to see that happen. We also have a Truth and Reconciliation Fund that we received from Canada Heritage for 5,000, and that's what we were able to use to do our 2 big programs that we did around the National Reconciliation Day, and then in partnership with Rotary, who was going to offer support on that one, we were able to move another program that's actually happening next month with an Inuit speaker who will be coming in, and Rotary's funds were able to be used there because Canada Heritage had to be within that week of reconciliation. So that was a nice fund that, again, was not anticipated. We applied, but it predominantly went to First Nation communities. So we were very lucky to qualify for that in our area. And then our Resilient Communities Fund is what we're doing our tech work on. So starting to build in this room and then starting to do some work in the gallery so we can do more virtual meetings and more hybrid meetings and hybrid programs. So that is the 20,000 for that. Outside of that, I don't know if there are actual questions about where we are in our standing, but we're where we expected to be. There are some funds that we are not going to spend that we're rolling over, and that is part of the funding agreement that we are able to roll over funds. So we have the furniture replacement, which is in the amount of $74,500 that we will be rolling over right about the 70,000. There was a RFP that went out yesterday for the new service desk technology areas here at Ellie Shore. So we anticipate that should be an RFP that closes in January, should be tendered out in February, and then it should be done in 2023. We'll see what the actual timelines are for the organizations. But those funds will not be a surplus because they will be allocated at that time. And other than that, we anticipate to be right coming down to the end of the funds with not a lot of rollover or surplus or shortcomings.
Shortfalls, maybe.
Yes, yes.
Any questions? Andrea?
Thank you, through you, the chair. I just had one brief question regarding the Trillium Foundation Resilient Communities Fund. it was one of the criterias that we then make the spaces that we're upgrading with technology available to other community groups, so that.
It is something that we put in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't a requirement, but we said that our renters are regularly coming in looking for these types of technologies. Our community doesn't have the opportunity to do as much remote for a larger group. So having this type of a setup that is part of our rental options now will make a big difference for some of the smaller community groups that don't have the ability to spend, $3,000 on an owl. So it'll really help, I think, community members.
Excellent, thank you.
That costs $3,000?
About 2,800, yes.
Holy crow. Wow. Anybody else have questions?
Which is why we were using laptops before.
Yeah, yes, well, thank you, Trillian. I had a question regarding this chart. On page 2. On the next page. And it's simply that there's one of the dates, the very bottom is a 2020 date, and I presume these are updated with the audited statement, and yet we seem to be a year out for one of them.
Those actually, it's not held by us, it's held by council, and we only get those numbers when they come in. That fund is an unusual one, and we've talked a few times about, does it actually belong on our records here? And I only put it on because I want to make sure we don't forget that it's there. But the reality is of this one, it is a town fund to be able to use to purchase equipment by the town that would be needed here at Alley Shore. So that is specifically our server, our staff laptops, those types of things. So we have no access to request out of that one. And I can only update those when the numbers are provided. So that would be part of the town's reserves, which is why it hasn't been updated in a while.
Okay, and so it's not identified separately in the audited statement, so there isn't any interest accrued to it specifically.
No,
No.
no, and any interest would be not accrued onto the individual line, but into
Because
the
it's a
town.
bigger thing, okay. But the other ones that all have a 2021 date, they are updated in that fashion.
That's the last time we've been given them, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And that was one that we actually found, there were a few items that we found from Rob Potter back from when he was actually working in the newsroom area of following things. So it was truly a living memory that we had to go back and do research on bylaws to find these. So that's why we keep it on, because it lets us know what's there, that we can at least come back to the town and have, appropriate bylaws and be able to access or at least remind if there's an issue that we need. Because not everybody will have a living memory from 20 years ago when things may or may not have happened. That was a 2003 bylaw.
Wow, okay. Yeah,
I think to Sabrina, I think you mentioned this before, or at the very beginning of the meeting, the very first item. The savings invest, the land reserve fund.
Mhm.
Is that in the form of a GIC?
So the one that lists savings was taken out of the GIC
Yeah.
and has gone into the savings account
Okay.
while we make decisions.
Oh, yeah,
The
that's,
other one is still in the GIC because we had them staggered.
oh, yeah.
So that one will mature October of 23, so a year from now. And we will have the opportunity to remove that one as well and roll it into whatever the board chooses to do with it at that point.
That's the part that confused me. That statement that the next maturity date is October 23rd, 2023. That, I thought then, how do you have a maturity of a savings account?
That's the investment, yes. So the land reserve was split into two investments. There was one that was the big GIC, and then there was one that had been sitting in a surplus in our checking account.
Yeah, okay.
And for some reason, it was sitting in the checking, which we were constantly having to explain to the town why it was there. So we moved that into an 18-month GIC, so that 17,000 will mature next year, and then we'll move that in as well, so that they're both into a high interest savings, or whatever the board chooses to do.
Fine, Sabrina. My memory's getting a little, is failing a little bit. What you're really saying is you got $108,000 in savings and the other things
Cash
separate
ready-
altogether.
Right there, yes.
So that's not very well put, but I'll try and remember for the next one.
You might, this is what I
She,
did.
she,
I just did.
she
tonight.
underlined the words.
So it was clear that because I was ready to get a savings investment. And then I kind of thought, I had the same question, but, oh, well. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
So a little line through there might
So
help,
we'll put a
but there's
line.
actually two different pieces
Whatever.
of information. Anything else on the Q3 report? Okay, in that case, why don't we move on to the proposed budget 2023?
So I'd like to start by prefacing that this is as good of a budget as we can do with the current information that we have. We know what our amount that we are going to receive from council is, but what we don't know at this point is what is the rate of wages going to be. So council will be making a decision with the new council as to what the COLA is going to be, the cost of living allowance. We had projected originally 2%, and that's what we project each year. Last year, they came in at 1.62, so we had a little bit of a savings on that end. This year, we've been told that we should project and plan for 3%, which is a significantly different price tag for wages. That does not mean that 3% is what is going to be decided by council. They can decide to give nothing, they can decide to give 4%. So what I've done is I've really done a slash of our budget to be able to bring it in to know that the 3% increase to wages are present. So that said, what we'll be doing today is approving the budget with kind of an unusual recommended motion that you are more than welcome to rethink on how you want to do that. But the proposal was that this board approve the 23 proposed budget. And then when a final COLA is determined by the Town of Blue Mountains Council, an update as needed be presented to the 2022-26 board. Because we may find out that we're short. We may find out that they're coming in at another 1.62%, and I can put back areas that I had to cut out of our budget to make the staffing. What we don't want to do is to go back to council, which was given to us as an option, and say, because it's a 3% wage increase, which wasn't planned, we need more money. We want to make sure that we are showing that we are capable of working within the numbers that are provided. Certainly, if we keep getting these unplanned growth, we're going to have other discussions with council, but we don't want that to be the first thing that we do in front of a new council. So we did a significant cut in other areas to make sure that we would meet the 3%, with the hope that that's potentially not where we are. So I just want that known so that everybody is sort of assuming why there are areas there. The other piece is you'll see that there is a projection for 23 and a projection for 24. Those numbers are not provided by the town's finance. That is just saying if we have a 0.5% of growth on taxes, they may find if they need to do a 3% tax hike, I'm sorry, a 3% wage hike, that the tax hike will be more than a 0.5%. But by putting a 0.5%, we decided this last year, that was a very conservative way of thinking of our future. The number is going to be whatever council decides this year. So if they end up with a 1%, then we'll know that our number goes up 1% as well. But the 0.5% was us trying to be conservative and knowing that we're still able to plan the next few years out, knowing that we're in place that we can balance our budget. So the large numbers here, we are expecting to come really right in on budget at 23 and 24 with the 3% for each year. Outside of that, I am willing to take any questions that you have about the consolidated budget. Once again, this is the funds that we use. This does not include the interfunctional transfers that council has. Those will be presented in their own budgets to council. We don't include those in ours. Council doesn't transfer those funds to us. So any funds for HR, any funds for maintenance, any funds for utilities, all of those types of areas, that lives within each of the individual budgets of council. So we're only looking at what would technically be the funds for the operations and staffing of our GLAM and our 2 facilities.
Questions? Morris?
Yes, may I ask why you're asking this year's board, this board to approve a budget for 2023, when already you're saying the new board will be doing it in February or whatever it is?
I anticipate, and I could be wrong, but I do believe that the new council will make their decision on what the cost of living allowance will be very early in their term, possibly in November, potentially in December.
Well, then may I suggest that this board today, us, that we should not be approving something that's possibly going to be changed in a month's time?
That is completely the choice of the board.
Jesse?
With respect to the prediction or projection, I should say, for the staff wages, what, if any, percent of increase over the previous year did you use to arrive at that figure?
We were instructed to use 3%. So that is what all of the budgets for the community are being asked to use, the town of Blue Mountain staff and the Blue Mountains Public Library staff. Last year, they gave 1.62%, and the year before, they did not give an increase.
Okay. I may just add, I will add, I think Morris's comment is well considered. And we're a lame dog board. Is that the right phrase?
No, no, the
Lame
duck,
duck.
the duck.
Thank
Wow.
And we ought not to be seen as imposing the financial position of the next board for the next 12 months.
Is there any concern about timing with the new board in terms of appointment and when it would meet and be in a position to approve a budget?
No, and actually, part of our finance policies fall under the town's policy, which is we are able to spend 60% of the previous year's approved budget without a budget in place. So it wouldn't stop us from doing anything.
Okay, so I understand that there's no consequences if we don't approve, and the advantage is that we'll have more information and it'll be a new board that has a chance to make its decisions.
Yes, so we could have this early in the January, the month, potentially if they need more time, it could even be deferred to February without an issue.
Okay. And even if we hear from the town that what the percentage is, I think I'm hearing from the board, they don't want to deal with this budget because they think it's the next board's responsibility. Is that a fair comment?
Yes, yes.
Totally the board's responsibility. If the town were to come through with these magic numbers in the middle of November, I'm not sure if we can. There is we have another board, at which we could approve it if necessary. But I picked up that lame duck thing, I'd forgotten, but I don't think it applies here, I don't. It doesn't.
Yeah, because we actually remain until replaced.
Yeah, true, that's right.
But, so I think you just said something a bit different from what I said, which was, you just said if we do get different numbers, we could look at it again in November.
Mhm.
But I kind of thought we were suggesting here that we don't want to, we want to leave it for a new board.
That was my, yes, I was thinking that.
I
Yeah.
could be mistaken and possibly Andrea can correct me if I am off. but November 24th is what is jumping into my head as being the swearing in ceremony,
I believe it's the 21st with the. Hang on a second, it's right here.
which would be after our board meeting. Our
Yeah.
last board meeting will be the 17th. So it's,
Yeah,
it's
correct.
after our board meeting.
Yeah, so the final council meeting of this current council is the 14th, then we'll have our meeting on the 17th. That council is still in place. The inauguration of the new council will be the 21st, and the first council meeting of that council will be the 28th.
So I wouldn't assume that we'll have an answer until in the December.
Okay. Yes,
So theoretically, we have the right power, I think, to defer our board meeting for a week, let's say. In order to find out whether the council is going to do a budget, but my objection remains the same. My concerns remain the same, is the better way to put it. And that is that it's really the obligation and the responsibility of the next board to decide what its budget will be for the next 12 months.
Yeah, I think.
And the next board could be appointed as early as November 20th.
okay. So in which case, I won't ask for a mover and seconder for a motion. I think we've agreed that we don't need to do it.
I think there's a consensus, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I see everybody nodding. Okay. So I guess we're done with the budget at this point. Thank you very much. Okay. So we're on to round table. Is there anything anyone wants to point out or ask about or add to this list?
I meant to ask, previous to this, the very last item, the board member information session, is that, okay, so we're going to get half a dozen people or a dozen people here. Are you expecting board members to appear, or are you and Sabrina going to do the dog and pony show?
We're the dog and the pony. Board members are more than welcome to attend.
But
and-
not open their mouth.
No, you're healthy, welcome to jump in if you want as well. Questions, make it posed and saying, so Jesse, what did you think about? Yeah, so you're more than welcome to attend, but we weren't giving you an animal to lead. Yeah.
Thank you.
What does the word observer mean to you, Morris?
I beg your pardon?
What does the word observer mean to you?
It's not my style.
Okay, may I have a motion to receive the information in the roundtable discussions? That would be Morris and Jesse, thank you very much. All in favor? One of the comments that did come up a few times in our exit interviews was some of the formality of this stuff. And I do question whether we need all of these detailed motions that are particularly receiving motions, but that is for another time.
Listen, excuse me, Madam Chair, but what we have today is better than it was a while ago, when we used to have a motion after a single motion after every individual thing, until I grouped the.
Oh, the receiving
Yeah,
report at
that's
the
good.
beginning, yeah. Yeah. Key messages update. I don't recall if you made a reference to the budget in here, but if so, what would it be? That would come out. Yeah.
No. So would you like me just to say that it has been deferred to?
No, I think
No,
that-
no,
I think
you have
that
to
is,
say
yeah,
anything.
an absence of a decision, is that?
It was a fairly short key messages this month. So our comment, again, to OTF, thanking them, our Indigenous series continuing on, information night and recruitment.
Can you just go back to the first one? I'm just thinking about Andrea's comments and make it clear that this actually in the technology that's now in the gallery or will be is a good thing for the community. And the ability to use that might be very helpful. So maybe add something to that effect. And I don't know whether it's clear in that paragraph that this is really about enabling remote access at the same time as in-person meetings. So that's kind of the purpose of this.
But maybe we should also put in a reminder that board meetings are open to the public, are still open to the public. I mean, we'd love to have people public in here, wouldn't we? Not here, next door. It's certainly a way of getting face to face with your community.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They're coming to you. You're talking.
I'm just thinking it belongs under organizational
Oh, yeah, whatever.
excellence. Is there anything we need to say under board recruitment?
Oh. School gym.
Can you flip down so we can see the second half of that? So do we have somewhere in here about the November 8th session? Yes, okay, the information, okay. Good. So we had kind of recruitment in 2 spots. Great, that's perfect.
And then go backs, which really is pushing the November 8th. We'll try to get this out tonight, so it's just one more push for tomorrow's, but
Now, Maurice, your comment about encouraging people to, physically attend. Do you want to, maybe this belong up under the,
If you agree, I'm saying that's all.
yeah, I don't problem with it.
We don't push it because there were times we didn't want them here. I beg your pardon.
And so that you're working on that, are you? Okay. Yes, because it's probably not evident to people yet that we have started to meet again in person. Because this little fellow here makes it possible without killing ourselves with the hybrid aspect of meetings. So, yeah, I think we should highlight that.
Yes, it's unfortunate that the only time we really ever had visitors or the public attending was when there was a bit of a crisis.
They're mad at us.
You were mad at us, yes.
when a library board meeting is quiet, you know that you're doing all right for your community.
You assume, you
That-
just.
that's-
assume-
Rule
No,
of things, yes.
So with those changes, can I get a motion to approve the release of the key messages update for October? Andrea moves, seconder, Joanne seconds. All in favor? Thank you, that's carried. So we do have a closed session coming up, but in the meantime, the notice of the meeting dates, the next one is November 17th at 2 p.m. And it will be a regular meeting, in-person meeting here. And of course, now we have the hybrid option, the easy hybrid option if someone can't attend in person. I think that's all I need to say about that. So we are going to go into closed session so that with regard to section 16.14 of the Public Libraries Act, this board will now move into closed session in order to address matters pertaining to personal matters about an identifiable individual or individuals.
And then just to note that no other business will happen outside of that, returning into open session, approving those resolutions and then adjourning.
Okay. So do I need a motion here to move into closed session? Or does that, okay, so, motion to, okay, so Morris moves. Seconder. Thank you.
Joanne had her hand up.
Okay, all in favor? That is carried.